There we go. Cool, cool, cool. Good evening, man. So awesome to have you here. I trust that your Monday has been amazing. You've had a wildly fulfilling past 7 days since we last spoke, even though we catch up all the time. Man, I always think that it's just super awesome to reflect on the week that has passed. I know that there's been some new programs that have come into play. There's been new movements, there's been new exercises. And of course, what comes with all of that is the new feelings, the next level of muscle soreness. And that's what's exciting because, man, what's always exciting about a new program, it's kind of like that. It's kind of like those new pair of wait, you guys call them tennis shoes, we call them joggers. So, sports shoes. It's like a new pair of sports shoes. It's like you're super keen to put them on, you're super keen to use them. And what you know is that these are going to help you, bring out your best. And that's what all of these programs that we have been working on over the past, week in terms of the next lot of programs. They're about bringing out the next best version of yourself. So man, tonight's training is all around our identity and what that means. Now, sometimes when we hear the word identity, we often think it's a bit of like a new age woo-woo type of word. It's like, oh, it's my identity, it's this, it's that. The reality is that when we actually look at our identity and what that means, we need to think to ourselves that like our identity is about like what like our identity drives our behaviors. Now, and what this means is basically it shows an element of who we are. Now, we're all different. We're all men. We are often very different in our personal life to different in our professional life. And, for a lot of us, we're then even often a different person when we're in the gym. Like, I find that the gym actually brings out this bit of like angry Andy. Does anyone ever have like that angry moment? It's like it brings out that whole like, oh, like I'm ready to do this. Like you just get super excited and you get super pumped and you don't mean to be angry, but it's like, I want to lift this weight. I want to do this. I want to do that. But me as a normal human being as such, like in my personal and my professional life, that's not me. But it's like this inner savage kind of comes out because, what I know is that if I'm wanting to push my goals and get to this next level of training, that it requires that bit of grit, that bit of resilience in there. So, yeah, so man, tonight as we talk about our identity and what that means, and I've got three layers of identity that we'll jump into very, very soon. What I want you to really think to yourself is what are you believing right now around yourself and your capabilities, how you're acting, and then what is it that I want to become? So I'll repeat that again. It's, what am I believing about my capabilities right now? How am I acting within these? But then what am I going to like, what am I becoming in terms of, through this journey? Because the journey of personal development is never done. The journey of being a Christian is never done. The journey of life is never done. Like I always, what's that saying? That the minute the student shows up, the teacher appears. I think that's it. As soon as the student shows up, then the teacher's going to be able to so to say, shed light and come in and really instill some greatness and some goodness on you. Well, I believe that that's what life is about. It's about all of the learnings, the lessons, and how we can best shape who we are as men as we move through all of this. So, if I was to say to you, like, what's 5 words that would best describe who you are today? What would you say are the 5 words about yourself? Would you say that you're a kind person? Would you say that you're a compassionate person? Would you say that you're an energetic person? Some of you might say that, you know what, lately I have just been stressed. I've been not a great person, and I've probably been quite an a-hole. I've been quite an ass, so to say. Some of you might describe yourself like that. And the beautiful thing that comes around this journey that we're on is we're able to reflect. Like, I know for myself that up until probably a month ago, I would have used the word stressed. How am I best describing me right now? I would use the word stressed. I would also use the word in there and say that I'm frustrated, or perhaps like a bit angry, at certain things that were going on in my professional life, through the sale of my business and the frustrations there. But the thing is even though that's the phase that I'm going through, what we need to always check ourselves for, men, is making sure that we're not attaching that to our identity. What I mean by that is, and look, I'll share a little story here, and it is a story that does come around a journey of faith, and this was a family member, and he grew up in a very, very uh, male-dominated, masculine world where men don't cry, men don't show emotions, all those types of you know things that would often come around, a young boy growing up. And he was raising his children like that. And then it actually, to the point that it was even having, myself and my wife somewhat of hesitant or even scared at times about even talking to him, because what just kept on coming through his mouth and from his heart was just anger and frustration. It's like, I know for myself that I was not someone who was handy with my hands. Like, I'm not someone that can go and fix, the fan that breaks, for example. I know you guys might all be shocked. Okay, there's some stuff I can do when it comes to being handy Andy and nailing stuff or fixing a door handle, but when it comes to some things, I just can't do it. Like, and that's cool. I can't be amazing at everything. That's the story I tell myself. Hey, so, but for this particular family member, he's one of those people that literally was amazing at sport, amazing at fixing things, a smart dude. But every time he opened his mouth, he was angry or frustrated. Now, what it actually took was for him to break. And what I mean by that was, I know that there was a series of events that happened within his personal family. And, I say that God came in and softened his heart. He needed to have that moment where God could come in and work wonders in his heart. And now I can tell you that he is the kindest, the most generous person, as a family member, really, really beautiful soul. And I share that with you because just because things were, it doesn't mean that they are now for the future moving forward. Like, things can always change. And I remember speaking with him about that as well. I remember, talking to him about the harshness, and, we've had some really great talks about that. And, because what we know is that when we're fully aware of things, then things are actually a choice. So now the fact that he knows this, he's able to shift that. So when we look at the question of identity, it's, what do I believe about myself? If you believe that you're a kind, compassionate, energetic, fun person, well, that's shown in, 90% of your life. Now, I'm not saying that you certainly can't, not be like, I'm not saying that you, can't ever be angry or frustrated. No, not at all. But what I'm saying, if they're those main things that you would choose to, you know, identify yourself as in terms of with your identity, then that's how you're going to act. But then the next question that comes after that is, what am I becoming? Because we know that the work is never done. The work on our heart, the work on our soul is just never done. There's always another layer. And this is the layers that I'm wanting to talk about with you tonight, is because the first layer that we look at is our surface layer. And these are often like the roles and the labels that we carry for ourselves. Like, what's our job? Are we a husband? Are we a dad? Do we play sports? Are we a gym goer? Are we in a leadership position? Like, this is that first layer that comes into play there that comes under our identity. I often say, many of you know that I've got a few things that I do. I've got obviously my men's coaching business, which I love, 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 love. So I put on the hat of I'm Andy, the men's coach. But then there's also times that that hat is still there, but I put on another hat, which is I'm the group fitness instructor that is there, motivating men and women. So, like, I can tell you that if I had a full class of men, I'm going to be motivating them very different to how I'm going to be motivating the women. I've always taught like that. And that's just tapping into, the masculine and the feminine and really playing with that. I know a lot of you know as well, I also wear the hat of a marketer and business consultant, where I help people grow their business. I help people market their business. I help with their personal brand. So there's times that I'm wearing that hat as well. So we often wear the different hats and we have these different roles and responsibilities, but we also label ourselves within that. So that's our first layer there, which is our surface layer. The second layer of our identity that comes into play is our belief layer. So what you believe about yourself, for example here, like, do you tell yourself that you're disciplined? Or do you tell yourself that I always fall off track? Do you tell yourself that you're an overcomer? Or do you tell yourself that you crumble when stress kicks in? I'll just repeat that again. Do you tell yourself that you're an overcomer, as in you can overcome all the obstacles that come your way? Or do you tell yourself that, oh no, like I can't handle stress, I just crumble. As soon as there's any tension, I just crumble, I back away, for whatever the reason is. Because this belief layer that we have, the beliefs are the stories that go on in our head. Now, you've heard me say this before, these beliefs that go on in our head, sometimes these beliefs have been put on us from family, from our social gatherings, from our friends. Our parents is a big one. How many of us have, like, I know that I adopted, I should say, a lot of beliefs from my parents. That served me until a certain part of my life. And then I realized that, you know what, like if I wanted to do better, I needed a new belief. Like I remember when I was 27 years of age and my personal training client said to me, "Hey, Andy, what's that? What's the owner doing?" And I said, "Oh, he's giving a tour to a person who is wanting to buy the gym that I was working at." And he said to me, he goes, "Well, why don't you buy it?" And I said to him straight away, "Go, oh, I don't know anything about business." So the belief in my head was, well, I'm not a business owner. Like, there's no way that I could own this. And then I remember talking to my mum and my dad. By the way, bad advice. Don't talk to your parents about your hopes and your dreams. Tell them after you've made the decision. And my mum said to me, she's like, "Well, you're not a business owner. Like, what would you know about business? You're a year nine dropout. Like, you couldn't wait to leave school. Like, what do you know?" My dad's like, "I reckon you could probably do it. Just don't end up on welfare." That was what my dad said. So I'm like, That's a good motivator, isn't it? Don't end up on welfare, hey? So, but if I adapted or adopted, so to say, those beliefs from my parents, there's no way that I would have went down the process of buying the gym. But what did I do instead? I had someone right next to me that had the mindset that was attractive. It was sexy. It was like this go-getter, like, of course you can, Andy. Like, you can buy the gym. Like, I'll hook you up. You can talk to my business broker. He'll help you get the finances. He'll help this and this and this. He goes, of course you can. He goes, I'll help you. Like, it was literally like this conversation. And here I am at 27 years of age going, I've got four children under the age of four. I've just purchased a house. We have a mortgage. We have this, we have that. There is no way that I could do this. So when we look at our identity, we can really see that our belief layer does shape not only our reality, but also the possibility of more. Like, so for example, and I'll use yourself, Jeremy, as an example just here. And I know that you won't mind me sharing this because I know that you've shared it before. Jeremy signed up with another online coach. This is going back, oh, it must have been 10 months ago now, 12 months ago, 1 year ago. Yep, yep. I remember Jeremy signing up and invested a lot of money. I believe Jeremy had one, maybe two calls, and then basically um, didn't hear from the guy again. He paid money, didn't hear from the guy again. It was kind of like he suddenly just ghosted Jeremy. And I remember Jeremy talking to me, and he was like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, are you in like a Facebook group, this and that? And he goes, yeah, like there is, but it's kind of like, he was new in the program. It's like, do you want to be that person? Hey, like, you're kind of there going, maybe like he's, because I believe irrelevant. I believe that like he had a family, maybe someone was sick, maybe suddenly had to go to hospital. Like you just never know. So basically what that did though, like that experience, that experience could have shaped Jeremy's whole perspective moving forward, where he had invested a lot of money. And just to give you an idea, I think it was about four times nearly as much as what he's paying now, if I'm correct. Like it was a lot of money that Jeremy had invested. And, the thing is, though, is sometimes we've got to go through that in order to come out the other side and to realize, you know what? Like, yes, that sucks that there was a lesson there that cost me money. But what it's actually done is it's also reinstalled Jeremy's belief system in the fitness, in men's coaching, in working with an online trainer and going, you know what? Like that situation that happened to me sucks. And Jeremy never got his money back. Like, I don't need to go into the details of that, but he never got his money back. There would have been him and plenty of other clients that lost out. But what Jeremy did was he didn't sit down and play victim. Like, this is the thing, that comes around beliefs. Like, Jeremy could have this belief going through his mind. He's like, oh, you know what? Like, scams, everyone online in the virtual space is a scam. Well, no, it's not. Like, you were scammed once, so to say. Well, it wasn't really a scam, but, you invested this money once. Not everyone's like that. It's just one of those things that sucks. So it's a matter of going, right, well, what's the new belief system that I have moving forward? Now, I can honestly say this. Like, I remember that I came in there and I helped him a bit, with his training and encouraged him. And then at that point, I helped him find another coach, to work with to give him what he wanted. Before he came and joined myself in my new, coaching program. But, man, what I'm getting at here is that this belief that goes on in our brain, in our mind, it happens from experiences. Now, I believe that every experience will either give us the outcome that we want or it's going to give us the lesson that we need. I'll repeat that again. Every experience will give us the outcome that we want, or it will give us the lesson that we need. So, as we look from the belief layer, and what's the beliefs and the stories that are going on in our head, the third, which is our core layer, this comes into our values, this comes into our characteristics, who we truly are, regardless of circumstances. If I was to be stripped back, like, man, I can tell you that if we were all stripped naked and standing there, we are all exactly the same. Right now, though, I might have a different brand shirt on to yourself, Jeremy, to yourself, Otis. But that means nothing. Otis may drive a different car to what Jeremy drives, different car to what I drive. The thing is like our values and our characteristics about who we actually are, regardless of circumstances, is a big part of our core identity. And one of the most amazing things about my wife, and I'll share this just for a moment, and it does make me a bit emotional, actually. My parents never taught me to choose kindness. That was for myself or for others. So, what that means is that I used to go into every situation quite reactive. I thought that everyone was out to get me. And I mean that when I say that. Like, I thought that I was like literally going into battle, whether it's work, whether it's going to training in gymnastics at that point when I was a child, going to, even going to church, going to youth group. Like, I was like, they're going into battle. And the reality is that when I met my wife, as optimistic as I always was, looking for the good in everything, my wife started saying this to our kids from a really, really young age. She goes, sometimes you can't choose everything, but you can always choose kindness. Sometimes, sometimes you can't choose everything, but you can always choose kindness. And I think that is just absolutely gold. And that's why, like, I look at everything, and I mean, I'm going to generalize everything. And I think to myself, I may not be able to control every situation, but who I am as a person and one of my values is kindness. And I know that my friends who I choose to associate with are exactly the same. And I know that from different situations that I've been in. I've been with friends. I was with one a few months ago, and we were there purchasing some food. And there was a lady in front of us who was becoming quite distressed. Look, possibly may have been under the influence of substance abuse. And, she was trying to order some food. She was obviously hungry. She looked, like an everyday person as such. And I was just quickly walking off to the fridge to grab some drinks and, coming back. And, she was still frustrated and upset. And my friend that I was with paid for her meal. And she literally started crying because of the level of gratitude. Now, I think to myself that, one of the beliefs that we have as a family, Rach and I, is that we do believe that God gives us enough for our table as well as he gives us enough for someone else's table. And that's something that we've always believed from all those young early days within marriage and with having our kids and our family. And it's beautiful to show that, some of those really core values that we have are shown through our children. Whether it's my son is at KFC working and people come through who are homeless, who have no money or very little money. And my son will purchase out of his money food for the homeless. Like they're those types of moments that you sit back and you think to yourself, you know what? Like, yeah, I've actually done a good job here. Because our values and our characteristics, these are not things that we tell people. These are things that we show people in the way that we show up. And this is a big part of our identity within our personal life, within our professional life, but also looking after our health and fitness. For me, it's not going to harm me or hurt me if you lie about the food that you consume. Because I can tell you that the scales won't lie. Your body metrics won't lie. Now, the reality that comes into play there is, you know what? Life is about this. Sometimes we're up, sometimes we're down. And sometimes food's really amazing. And we are absolutely smashing all of our macros on a daily basis. We're really achieving our goals. And then sometimes there can be something that just happens and it throws us off court for a couple of days. And that's okay. That is okay. So, when we look at our values and our characteristics, what we need to think to ourselves is, who are we at our core? So our identity isn't about what we do. It's about what we decide who we are. That's just a little quote that I wrote down there. So, man, super quickly, I'm mindful of the time here. I just wanted to add this one last thing in there. For some of you that may be struggling a little bit with that whole identity piece, look, please reach out. I know that we're all in different phases of our life. The reality is that just because it was, it doesn't mean it has to be. Okay? Just because it was, it doesn't mean that it has to be. We can always focus on rebuilding this, refocusing that. And a couple of quick little points here is we do this through clarity, really defining who we are, our values and our non-negotiables. I love it. There's so many men who are so committed that, you know what, every single morning they get up regardless to get to the gym. I love that. There's so many men that go, no matter what my day looks like and shows, I'm always getting to the gym. That's it. I love that. That's your non-negotiables. For me, one of my non-negotiables is I'm always going to be moving my body. Sometimes lazing around and having a lounge day does sound fun, but I would still get up and go to the gym in the morning first. Like, that's just what you do, right? So in order to seek that clarity there, defining what those values are and those non-negotiables, one of the things that I've actually continued, and I was only just saying this to a friend last night, is since the dedicated 28 that we did, and we're now, what are we, 2 weeks since finishing that, week and a half since finishing that, I have still not consumed soft drink, fizzy drink, pop, soda. So I have not consumed any, and it wasn't that it was something that had like a vice on me that was holding me, holding me back. It was just one of those things that was not necessary. And for many, many years, I know that my wife and I, we were not drinking any of it. Like, we just literally noticed that, you don't wake up one day and go, right, I'm going to, drink pop today, drink soda. Like, you don't say that. It just happens. You might go out for dinner and it seems nice. But then, like everything, You do it once and then it happens again and again and again. And before you know it, it's crept in and it's not great for your health. So really having that clarity to define, who you are. The second thing is the consistency. So aligning your daily actions with your identity. So once again, like if you really believe that your identity and your core values, at the core there is kindness, then are you being kind to yourself and are you being kind to others? It could be being a very hospitable person. Like, are you always giving to others of your time? Like, I know that all the men in the Next Level program are amazing with giving time to others. And that's one of the things that I'm super proud of. And I like to think that, some weeks, obviously, we all do better than others, but we all know that if someone needs help, that we're there. We're just around the corner, just a phone call away, just a 16-hour flight away, you know, these types of things. So really having that consistency in the alignment daily. And then, of course, the third thing with rebuilding your identity, and this is the biggest thing, is the community. You have to surround yourself with men who reinforce it. If you're someone who is struggling with an addiction of alcohol, are you best being around a group of men who love to drink alcohol? And I say this, I'll say it again, that your environment is stronger than your willpower. Your environment is stronger than your willpower. Studies, research has been done. If you want to be around winners, then you need to be, like, if you want to win in life, you've got to be around winners. And that's one of the things that I actually had this conversation with someone the other day. And we were talking about, where I used to live, of a town of, 50,000 people, to where I live now, a regional or a city, so to say, of about 300,000 people stretched out. Like, are you championed in the environment that you're in? Are you championed by the people who are around you? Because the community is everything. That's the eighth wonder, baby. The eighth wonder. I think I might need to do another video on the eighth wonder. Hey, those videos seem to be everyone's favorites. Yeah. It's always a good reminder too. I love it. I love reminding myself. Once again, like, is this relationship adding value to my life? Yes, everyone needs a friend in this world. I'm the first to say that. But in order to have friends, you've got to be a friend. And in order to be a friend, you've got to have something to give. Otherwise, it's just a companionship. So cool, man. So that's it, hey? So to rebuild it, to keep adding just a bit more into our identity there, just a reminder that clarity, consistency, and community, the three C's that come into play there. So normally I would draw them up on a fancy little triangle and put 1, 2, 3, but hey, you guys get the gist of it. So cool, man. Super excited. So thank you so much for jumping on. Have an amazing night. And I will talk to you guys soon. Thank you.